Hello, everyone. It's Dave Paulsen, head men's basketball coach at George Mason University with episode 3 of DP's Distancing Dialogues. Little different background today. First two were out on my screen and porch at home. But today there is an advanced placement stats exam going on in the Paulsen household. And if I'm either too loud, which on occasion I've been accused of being, or if I kick the Wi-Fi off, I would have a lot of heck to pay. So don't worry. I have my mask and my gloves when I walked into the office, following appropriate protocols. Joined today by Josh Loeffler. Before I talk about Josh a little bit, again, the origin of this, conversations that I would have anyway, try to record them, and then I, in honor of each guest, will donate to a charity relief organization. My guest will do the same. And we just ask if you watch this that you think about donating as well. This week, I'm going to go back to donating to DC Central Kitchen, a relief agency in the greater Washington, D.C. area that's served, over 350,000 meals since the pandemic began, and happy to partner with them. Today's guest, Josh Loeffler. Josh was an assistant coach to me when I was at Williams College, probably 2006? Is that right?
05, 06, yeah.
2005, 2006. And Josh went on, after he was an assistant for me at the age of 24, became the head coach at Stevens Institute of Technology Division III program, took them to the Sweet 16 in his first season. Unfortunately for me, fortunately for Josh, he accepted a job as an assistant coach at Lafayette College 1 week before I was hired at Bucknell. Otherwise, he might have had the sad fate of being an assistant with me twice, but had a chance to learn under Fran O'Hanlon for 4 years at Lafayette, spent a year at Rutgers as a director of operations, 4 more years at Loyola in Maryland, and just completed his 3rd year at Johns Hopkins. In 2 of those 3 years, in all 3 years, played for the conference championship against Swarthmore, also a perennial power in Division III. 2 of those 3 years, Josh's team won the league tournament, went to the NCAA tournament, and finished with 24 wins. So, Josh, thanks for coming on, and hope you and your family are doing well.
Thanks, man. I didn't realize it was an AP exam day. That's a big deal. I thought you were inside because of the weather. I didn't realize it was because you had stats exams going on as well. So you're a good man,
Well, and the best thing I can do in helping to prepare for the stats exam is get the heck out of the house, because that is not my area of expertise.
Yeah, just let her do her thing. Run her own offense on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, for those tuning in who haven't met Josh yet, no, this is not Woody Harrelson who's joining us in studio. Woody's much tougher on the court than Josh.
Yeah, no doubt.
But, Josh, so a lot of things to talk about. And, what's interesting to me, and a lot of guys that I've had conversations with off air, if you will, about what you're doing on ball screen defense, what you're doing on this, what you're doing on that. 4 different people that I've talked to last week said, I just talked with Leffler. So just really well regarded, in the coaching community. So one of the things that I thought would be interesting for those tuning in, how, at 24, you're a head coach at Stevens, do very, very well. Now, I can't do the math, but mid to late 30s, I'm guessing. 38?
I'm 38 now, yeah.
Okay. How have you changed? How has head coaching changed some of your philosophies? And also, how have your years as a Division I assistant shaped and tweaked and changed kind of what you do and how you go about doing it?
That's a really it's an interesting question, and I don't know if I can hit on all the things, or I probably don't even realize some of the things that I've changed over the years, because they're gradual and they just happen over time. But, it's funny. I was telling someone the other day, a lot of what we do in regards to building like transition defensive habits, they really still go back to what we did in 05, 06 at Williams. And that's just ending possessions with a lot of transition defense and the emphasis. So, some of these things are your core beliefs in terms of basketball stuff. They're going to stay the same no matter what. I think one of the things that was really beneficial for me, transitioning from Stevens to Lafayette specifically, was the amount of time that we got to spend on the floor in Division I compared to Division III. Just the amount of hours that you put in coaching as a Division I assistant, because there's no limitations. Division III, we have no fall, no spring workouts. The Division I workouts at Lafayette, especially at Lafayette for Coach O, you just log so many hours, and you just get to be on the floor teaching so much that almost through osmosis in some ways you pick up things just because you're involved so often on the floor. And I think I've been able to work now for a lot of different people, and you can just take little things from each guy. And then one of the things that I always think is fun is, as you go through this and you see things that you like, whether it's through a scout or, like, let's be honest, I just watch a lot of basketball on TV. I might, listen to a Chris Oliver podcast or something like that. You can just pick up little things here or there that you add to what you do to go along with just bigger chunks of things that you can take from different people. A lot of what we do defensively right now comes from my playing career, but also, working for G.G. Smith, a lot of the stuff that we did defensively at Loyola. A lot of the ball screen stuff we do is just, things that I always really liked when talking to colleagues and friends about how they play side ball screens. And I was like, man, if I ever get a chance to do this again, I kind of want to really look into that. A lot of what we do offensively is a hybrid of some things I did with you and a lot of the things I did with Coach O, but also just my constant appreciation for a lot of the Princeton concepts over the year. And when I was, at Lafayette, I was fortunate enough to get to hang out with Coach Carrill some because he's a Lafayette alum. So, like, just all that kind of stuff. And then I've taken something from everywhere, like I thought defensively at Rutgers, we did some unbelievable things. And so I just think there's little bits and pieces from everywhere. And then, you get to add your own personality to it on some level,
All right, so let's dive down on just two things.
Yeah.
Two things that you take away from your 4 years with Fran O'Hanlon at Lafayette. Obviously there's a million, but what are the two takeaways? Like, if I had to pick two things that I took with me from Coach O, they were.
I think Coach O has an amazing understanding of making other people better when you're on the floor. He truly values passing and connecting a team. Anybody who watches his teams will notice how well the ball moves.
Yeah.
And I think that I always love that. They just had the connectivity of the teams. And then I think the other thing he does is his attention to detail in terms of like player development and just the little things that as an 18-year-old you probably don't think are that important, but this is the way you separate after you screen. This is the way you get out after you cut. Like the little things that just compound, the habits that come from great attention to detail. I mean, he is meticulous, and there's a reason his offensive teams are precise.
Right. Okay. All right. We take from Mike Rice.
Mike's an amazing defensive mind. His ability to have a real overarching defensive system that all makes sense together. There was not a piece of what we did there defensively that was out of place. So if we were hard hedging a ball screen, it was because we were doing something that made sense to hard hedge. Nothing was just, oh, I like this, we'll add this. It all was calculated defensively. And I think that was really important. And the other thing is just how much you can really actually accomplish as a basketball staff. How much you can do in terms of camps and mail out, and just there's a lot that you can do if you use your time in the office wisely. I thought we actually did a lot of work when we were there, and I was always impressed by the capacity for work at Rutgers.
Okay. And what's the biggest thing you take away from Gigi at Loyola?
His defensive concepts, just from a principle standpoint, that's still really what we base things on here. And Gigi was an amazing, he just so willing to collaborate with his staff, like very little ego, and truly wanted to have people's input so that we could all make a decision that we were excited about as a group.
Okay. So let's digging down a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
So with Coach O, give me one or two nuggets, in terms of attention to detail that he put in to, player development. That you're like, wow, I never heard of that or never thought of that. That, because that is applicable really regardless of what offensive approach you take.
There's no doubt. Yeah. I mean, I just think now he's probably on one end of the extreme where it's going to be his way or no. And I actually think he's relaxed that a bit in the last few years. Probably more so because there's just less off-ball play now in basketball than ever before. I mean, even his motion has turned a little bit more into two-man game and ball screen heavy.
Yeah.
But I don't think I had ever truly considered that after I down screen, I should always open up so that I can find the ball immediately. So if I down screen here and the ball's over there and I open up here, that's silly. Now I can't see the ball. So it was, you screen here and then you open up right away so that you can find the ball for a shot or a rip through. And the first time I saw that, I was like, oh, well, that does seem very obvious, but it's not obvious because a lot of people don't do it. And the amount I find myself repeating things like that he says or that he had said, if someone has a chance to go watch Lafayette practice, they should do it. It's really that well run. The other thing I always loved about his practices was, number one, no one in the country can run a tighter practice than him, with the exception maybe of the guy I'm talking to right now, right? I don't want to, but if we were supposed to have a 6-minute drill, he was moving to the next drill at 5 minutes and 59 seconds. Internally, it's insanity how precise he is. But sometimes guys would say well, this or that, and he would say in a game you don't get a do-over. You didn't get it right that time. You've got to get it right the first time in a game. You don't get to just say all right, well, we're going to take the whole rest of the practice until you get this right. That's not the way basketball works. Basketball is a transition sport. We have to transition to the next drill now. It's on you to get that correct the first time. And I thought that really lent itself to a good sense of urgency as a program.
Good. And in terms of Gigi, defensive principles, what are the main, just one or two things that you think, okay, that's really.
Well, he was, and I love this. We really shrunk the floor, and it's something that we talk about a lot too. Very active in gaps. Now, in a different way, so were your teams when I worked for you at Williams. We were pack line and active in gaps, right? Well, at Loyola and now at Hopkins, one pass away, we're shrinking gaps. But on penetrating passes, you're contesting in the passing lane, trying to get a deflection. So we really play up the floor. That was a
up
big
the line.
Yeah, Gigi was he would always freeze the film and say, you're too flat. You're too flat. That gap is too big. They can punch that. And it's so true. Shrinking gaps makes the floor seem smaller to an offense, especially in an era when so many people are very good at attacking off the bounce. He was tremendous about that. And then just the emphasis on the rebounding part of it, a demand that everyone understand how important rebounding really is. It's in a lot of ways, basketball is still won by the less glamorous things, not turning the ball over and being a great rebounding team, and I think he put a lot of focus on rebounding, and I think that gets lost sometimes.
Yeah. So in terms of, I'm trying to think about your shrinking gaps.
Yeah.
Maybe because this will kind of segue into some of the more you sharing your screen or walk it through. So let's go to defense a little bit. So where I played so I'm trying to understand where I would play the pack line. Certainly with you, would be in gaps to deter penetration, but more open stance for allowing the pass.
Yeah.
You would be shrinking gap, but more closed stance.
So the one thing that's interesting about the way we play and the way really that I learned from Gigi is that it's all about where you are on the floor. So you're in a closed stance on penetrating passes, and you're in an open stance if you're guarding someone even or behind the ball.
Open stance, someone even or behind.
So like, let's say you're in one guard slot and I'm in the other guard slot.
Up top, yep.
Yeah, I would be at the nail, pointing at both ball and man,
right,
with my back to the baseline.
Right.
Now, let's say you're at the guard spot and I'm below you on the wing, like an entry pass.
Then you'd be up the line.
Correct. And I like that. And you probably, in the late 90s, most teams on the East Coast, at least, were on the line, up the line, everywhere, one pass away, right?
Right.
It was very much – I think basketball is a little more regional than we tend to give it credit for. Like, the Midwest has largely been pack line for a long time.
Right.
But especially on the East Coast, when I played, if you were one pass away, whether it was guard to guard or guard to wing, you were in a closed stance on the line, up the line. And I think that's gotten harder and harder over the years because more and more guys can dribble. So having the guy at the nail in a supportive gap stance while the guy on the wing is shrinking the gap with his back and in a closed stance, to me, it's it closes down the driving lanes a bit more than when I played.
It's intriguing. See, this is now the people watching, they may think, what the heck are we talking about? This is the kind of stuff that guys, especially during a pandemic, could talk about for hours. So, all right. Can you see my board?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, that is clean. That's
as clean as it's been. Somewhere I got an eraser. Hold on.
We're on the move here, folks.
Huh?
I said he's on the move.
All right. So here's my question then.
Yeah.
So the ball is right here.
Correct. Yeah, go.
And we got X2 would be about there.
Correct.
But X4 would be up the line a little bit more.
Correct.
X3 is 2 passes away.
100%.
Like
yes.
Okay. All right. Now the ball moves to 4 in the corner. Okay. X1.
He's shrinking that gap back to the baseline.
Right.
Yep.
So he's more in the gap, just like X2 had been in the. So in this case, with the ball down here, everyone.
100%. Yeah. I mean, in a perfect world, you're getting to the level of the ball, but that doesn't happen anymore because of the 3-pointer. So.
Right.
But you're shrinking to the level of the ball. Yes.
So it's only when the ball's up top.
Well, no. Like, let's say the ball's pointed. Like, let's say you're in like a 3 around 2.
Right. Right.
Now the guys guarding those wings would both be in closed stances.
Right. So X3 would be here, and X2 would be here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And we call those the closed stance where you're on the line. We call those 21 stances. It's something I took from Coach O'Hanlon. It's 2 steps towards the ball, 1 step off the ball line.
2 steps towards the ball, 1 step off the ball line.
Correct. Yeah.
Coach O'Hanlon never taught defense.
Yeah, we did. We
We
recruited
3.5 hours on offense.
We recruited a lot of guys who were just better at offense, you know?
Okay, so there we go, 21.
Yeah, it's a good one.
So the 21 stance, but it's only when the ball basically is above you.
It's any pass going towards the rim. Yes.
Right. So a 2-guard front, it's
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You got it. You're ready to teach this.
Well, that's interesting. All right. So that wasn't what I was initially going to ask, but that was an interesting sidebar. So one of the things I think that, and I'll be fully honest with you, I haven't watched your NABC webinar yet, but it goes till May 31st. So
it's a big hit. The kids are talking about it. You know, it's Frozen 2 and my webinar, apparently.
Well, you know what? If the alternative is to gouge my eyes out, then I might watch it. No, I actually do want to watch it. The same 4 people who said that they talked to you and got something out, they all said your webinar was good. So, and I think 5 people watched it. So that's a pretty good.
I only have money to pay for people. You know, it's a live for me.
Amen. Downing or icing ball screens.
Yeah. So it fits with what we do because we influence away from the middle.
Right.
You know, it's a very natural progression because you know we are influencing away from the middle. We are influencing towards the sideline and baseline. So it does fit what we do very very easily.
So we're just starting to talk about, Josh, the way you down or ice ball screen coverage. So I think you can share your screen now.
Here we go.
And if you got some film, all right.
Got some film here. Let me share it here. Okay. So you can see here, first clip.
Outside wing.
Let me turn the sound off here so it doesn't talk over us. Sorry.
Sport code. Every time you go to large screen, I learned this. You got to put.
I know it's really quite a thing. So you can see here we got a side.
Run back a little bit further.
Absolutely.
Run back a little. Okay. A little bit more. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
So here you go. We have a side ball screen here. So when we ice, we're only icing or downing, if you will, on the outside thirds of the floor.
Right. Basically, what you got, a volleyball line out there?
Yeah. I mean, what we do actually is to start the year, we just run tape from the elbow all the way to the intersection of half court and the sideline. So it's
from the elbow to the half court sideline.
Yeah, and then anything outside of that, the guys know we're in that ice coverage. You know, my first year at Hopkins, we had a 4-man who was a little bigger, so we iced with both the 4 and the 5. At other times here, we've switched with our 4 and only iced with our 5. So in this clip, we're icing with our 4-man. And the way we ice is a little different than some because, as you can see, we get number 44 here who's guarding the screener. We get him foot to foot with the screen.
Okay.
And it's very much an aggressive ice. And it's very much a trap, you know.
Yep.
We're very adamant about no splits. So it's important that the man guarding the ball screener is foot to foot, not getting split, and the man guarding the ball handler doesn't allow the ball handler to use the screen, and he's physical into the ball.
Yep.
Now, to allow for making it work, we really load up to the ball.
Yep.
So as you can see here, as the ball's coming over, we have number 24 here at the elbow. We call him top. 13 here he really should be over a little farther here. and that's the low man. And then this player over here on the weak side lane line, that's our X. So we are zoned up off the ball.
Yeah.
And that's how we load up to the ball.
And will 24 try to go shoot that gap and steal that pass to the pick and pop big there?
If he can, yes. If he can, yes. If not, then we're in our stunts and our rotations.
Right.
So
And
here,
if 24
right
is
here,
man,
right on cue, you can see here. Now this player on her sinus right here, very good shooter, pick and pop big. So he came over really aggressively to try and take that away.
and if the guy at the top of the key for sinus dives to the rim, does your X-man take who takes him?
Well, right now, so like let's say right now,
Or even if he dove right now, early.
if he dove right now, we would pass him along between the top man and the low man.
Okay. Yep.
If he dives now, obviously the top man's not there, so the low man's going to have to pick that up.
Okay. And if he pops and they skip it, then X is to him.
X is to him. In this instance, if he threw it to the top man here, we would stunt. Let's see what they end up doing. I actually don't remember this clip.
You throw it away.
Yep.
You wouldn't put a clip where you got hurt on your edit tape.
You're probably right, although I'm not very smart, so all bets are off as to what I include.
So on this one, number 13 is not foot to foot.
Not foot to foot, but he's still not allowing a split,
Right.
you know? So that's a really good that's a good point. You know, in an ideal world, like the platonic version of this looks like foot to foot, but we also talk to our guys like in the real world, we're not getting split, but we also don't want to let that guy just blow right by you for a layup to the baseline. We want to impede his progress. So,
Yep.
you know, figure it out. You know, maybe you're, you know, right here. But that guy's not going to split this either. So number 13 here was Defensive Player of the Year in our league that year. He was really great in ball screen coverage and probably had as good a feel for that kind of thing as anyone I've ever been around. You see here, so we're staying with it. 5 is coming over for the top man. 44 is here on the block as the low man. Number 1 here is X. Staying with the trap on the ball there. Stunting it and getting back in front of the ball.
Who's number 1?
That may be
Is that Jesse Flannery?
Lewisburg's finest, Jesse Flannery.
I thought so. I thought I saw that sheer athleticism there. He's in the right spot. Look at that. If
He was in the right
Jesse,
spot.
he should be one of the 5 guys who says good things.
So here we got a different angle screen. We got a step up.
Yep.
And we're going to treat it the same way.
Yep.
You know, where we're in that trap. Now, this was a random action, and it hit pretty quick with cutters on the backside. So we get to our spots a little late, which is a problem here. But we really do also emphasize in the 2 men guarding the ball screen, really active hands, deflections. Because if we allow the offense to throw strikes out of the trap, the rotations are really hard. And we're not always going to be perfect. Here, we're not perfect in our spots, as you can see. But because our hands are active, we're able to allow those 3 backside players to be a little late and still come up with the steal.
I run this back here. Hold on. Let's run this back at the beginning slow. So I don't want to get into your positioning that we talked about at the beginning up on my grease board. Now it's even so ideally, just run it back here. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So stop right there. So ball there on number 1. Your guy here at the elbow is where he should be.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, make the pass and then stop it. In an ideal world, ball, your guy 13, it looks like a trail big. He's where he should be. Okay.
He's pretty much where he should be. Yeah. I mean, he was that kid that year wasn't really shooting many threes, so he was back a little bit more.
Okay.
Swings
it. Reverse it. Ideally, you want number 5 up the line a little bit more?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
That's too.
Just trying to-
That's a reversal. That's a reversal. That's probably too easy.
Yeah. Okay. But I'm just okay. So now he downs it. All right. Go ahead.
All right. Look, I'll back it up here. So what they were doing in this game was they were flipping this to a step up consistently. So here we're getting to our we're getting to our ice or down coverage spots.
So a lot of people will flip that screen, but you treat the side and the down, the step up the same anyway, so it doesn't really impact your coverage, right?
Doesn't impact our coverage at all now.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
No. Again, really active hands matter. You can see we really load up to the ball, try to force skips, and have active hands on the ball to impact those skips.
Yep. Now you guys, stop it for a minute. When you were with, so your defensive spacing principles are similar to what you did with Gigi at
Yeah.
Loyola, but you guys didn't ice ball screens, did you?
We did not. No.
All right.
No. Really what we did was I really liked the way Kyle Smith's staff at San Francisco taught icing. That's really where this came from is this is his. Now I think a lot of what he did there, because they didn't ice at Columbia, I think Todd Golden had been at Auburn. He was working with Chuck Person, who had been in the NBA, and a lot of this is taken from some of the NBA concepts of icing.
Yeah.
And I hired, when I got to Johns Hopkins, John Andrzejczyk, who was formerly the Dobo at San Francisco, and that's really where we started to implement this. I mean, he was the one who pretty much taught us all the little intricacies of the way they taught it at San Francisco.
Okay.
It was something I just really liked the way they did it, you know.
Yeah.
You know, personally, I hate giving up pick and pop threes, and that this makes it really hard to get a pick and pop three.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so I think for me, and this is, you got a longer session of this on the NABC webinar that people can access, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So what hurts it?
I think the things that hurt it are a lot like your normal defensive things. If we're not in the right spots, I mean, it's going to be hard. You know, like if we're not communicating what spots we should be in, you know, I think with icing, obviously we say, hey, we don't want to get split. Because if you get split, now you're playing against a 4-on-3. So if the big doesn't do a good job of taking away the split, or if they're not very active with their hands, it's really bad. If the guard lets the ball handler use the screen, it's really hard. I mean, that's very easy to figure out. Like, you know, those are two things that ice is supposed to take away. If you let it happen, you're going to have trouble. But the three backside guys, if they're not organized like this, and we have two guys on top of each other here, well, then our rotations are going to get all messed up. Or if no one, you know, takes away a roll man to the rim, you're going to give up a layup. So really, if we're not organized off the ball as much as on the ball, we're going to have trouble. We're going to have a lot of trouble. So we really do have to communicate and be organized as things are happening in real time.
And so on that terms of the backside three guys, what have you found to be the most beneficial in drilling it? You know, because you're going to see obviously different alignments and entries and sets. To get
yeah. So when we go on defense in practice and we work against ball screens, we really only do it 5-on-5.
Right. Right.
So it's 5-on-5, and we have to be pretty planned out about practicing early in the year.
Here's what the offense is going to do against it. This cut,
correct.
This read, this guy here, and then you got to make sure that you get every player in every one of those 3
Yes.
spots.
Yes. So the other thing I think is in year one, this was incredibly successful for us. In year two, we had a very senior group returning. Two things happened. I think maybe I sped up the process of teaching it a little too much.
Yep.
And we did play a couple freshmen, a good amount of minutes along with those older guys. And I think that because I didn't go step by step slowly enough early in the year, maybe those freshmen's habits in it weren't great.
Okay.
But the other thing I think that happened is in that year two, I think especially in our league, because we had been successful the year before, I think offenses adjusted and did good things against us and pressured us to get better because they were doing things that really were more difficult to guard. So
what were those things that they did? So for some people here are maybe they're going to implement icing or downing. Some people like me are going to go against it.
Yeah.
So what are those things that people did that were good?
Well, I think the more random it can be, the harder it is to go against.
Yeah.
Like if the defense knows this is what's going to happen every time, then it's much easier. It's much easier for the defense to get to the right spots every time, right? Like if I know you're only going to run one play, I know what I'm going to have to face.
Right.
So randomness makes things a little more difficult. Now, on the flip side of that, if the offense isn't organized against an ice and there's too much randomness, then you're going to have a lack of spacing that you need on offense as well.
Right. Yep.
But I think in general, the more shooting you can put on the floor against it, the harder it's going to be to face.
That's novel, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know. I think in year one we saw probably more teams with a guy in the dunker opposite the ball.
Yep.
And in year 2 and 3, we've probably found more just spacing along the perimeter, like 5 out. Okay. One of the guys who's hardest to guard against is actually your man Dom Hoffman's little brother, Dallas Hoffman.
Okay.
Because Dallas is essentially a 5-man who plays like a guard. He can really shoot. So when he pops out of that screen, he's threatening you with the 3. But what's really hard about him is he's great at attacking closeouts.
Right.
So when they hit him on a pop, you have to take away the 3, and then you have to take away his drive. And a dynamic 5-man like that is really hard. Now, that if you can find a bunch of those guys, God bless you, because you'll be really good no matter what. But he is really as hard a guy as we've had to face in this defense because he's a dynamic playmaker at the 5.
Where's he at? Muhlenberg? Is that?
He's at Muhlenberg. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Really nice playmaker at the 5 who gives us, who presents a lot of people with a lot of problems, but it's even more his ability to play off the dribble than it is his shooting that is challenging.
What's your ball? So what's your ball screen coverage in that middle channel?
It's I'm going to end my screen share here. It's because I don't have any of that right now.
Yeah.
Unless you want me to keep it up?
You might as well. Yeah, no, end it and then you can get back to it.
All right.
Middle of the floor, we play a lot like you did at Bucknell, the kind of the flat hedge and over, the Butler Brad Stevens model.
Soft drop kind of stuff.
Yeah, we don't really drop that. We go foot to foot. It's a little more aggressive. We're trying to level the ball off until the defender can get back in front.
But how long will you stay with it?
That's a great.
So I've done both, right? I've done the flat hedge where we stick with it, and then I've done show flat and drop earlier. Stick with it?
We probably stick with it longer. I think one of the things about ball screen defense that always has annoyed me is coaches just blame the bigs all the time. You didn't stay with the ball long enough. You dropped 2. A lot of times, how about the guard actually really works to not get screened and get back in front? So we try to, especially in the middle of the floor, we talk a lot about winning with your feet, and getting your feet around the screen, skinnying up over the screen, and getting back in front of the ball so that big can disengage.
Okay.
But so really we put a lot of onus on our guards working really hard. Like they should almost be telling that big, I'm back. All
right, next question. If I'm more like a traditional pack line, like Virginia taking away the baseline foot, can you down?
It's hard. I think it's hard.
That's what I think.
I think it's really hard. I kind of knew you were going to ask this, and I was trying to work out in my mind how I thought you could. I think you have to drill it and drill it and drill it, and I still don't know. It's just it's so counter to the basic fundamentals of the pack.
That's like what you said about Mike Rice at Rutgers.
Yeah.
Every piece of the defensive package fit with the other pieces.
Yes. And I think there's a reason. I think Tony Bennett at Virginia is very methodical about how to put two men on the ball to create some risk,
right.
And he does it with hard hedges and going with the double in the post,
right.
Because if you don't do those things, the pack line can be very risk averse.
Right.
But those two things make a ton of sense with the pack line defense.
Yep.
I don't know if icing makes as much sense with the pack line.
Yep. I would agree, which is kind of similar to what we've morphed to here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next topic, switching gears.
Yeah, man.
Somebody that I talked, I can't remember who, said you had some interesting ways of teaching transition defense.
Okay.
And I don't know if that was in your talk.
Yeah, we talked a lot about transition D in my talk. Yeah.
So what are you doing? I'm just trying. And again, like you said, a lot of it was stuff that we did way back when we were at Williams. So what's different? What's new? What's changed? What's evolved in terms of what you do? It appears to me that is a bigger challenge for me than it ever has been, and I'm not sure exactly why.
So a lot of what we do is still based in what I learned from you. We try to pick the ball up pretty high while still protecting the rim. We flood the ball side.
Yep.
We try to one of the big things is we try to force skips in transition as much as possible. Really flood the ball side and make that ball get skipped. Yep. If anything, I think maybe over the years, it's two things that have kind of changed a little bit. One, we label guys goes and get backs now.
Yep.
So and I don't think that's novel anymore. I think a lot of people do that. But it's been really good for us just in terms of accountability.
Yep.
And two, I think I've picked up a few different transition defensive drills that I really like over the years that I think teach. So we still do 5 out, 5 under a lot, which I've always really liked. But we do a couple of other things that really force the team to build a strong side triangle and bump out in transition while protecting the rim. And then we do a drill that we just started doing this year called the Alamo drill, where we really work on the first guy back, protecting the rim, and then everybody exploding out from there. So I think maybe just some of the different drills that we've acquired through watching other people, working for other people, or hiring other people. People bring great drills. So I think
what's
maybe
the
just
Alamo drill? How's the Alamo drill
work? I'll pull it up. So essentially, it's a corny name where you got to protect the Alamo. So here, Alamo drill.
You're essentially in very similar spacing to what you would do in 5 out, 5 under,
Yeah.
but you have 4 guys on the baseline instead of 5.
Okay.
The easiest way to introduce this drill is to put your offensive and defensive forwards on the lane lines. Then you have your offensive, let's say it's your point guard right now, at the nail, and your defensive point guard right behind him.
Yeah.
What we're going to do, I start by explaining. This is the first day we ever did it, so I know I'm explaining it in that first part here. What we're going to do is I'm going to, just like 5 out, 5 under, I'm going to throw the ball to the offense. 21 and 32 here. As I throw the ball to the offense, are going to go touch the backboard.
Yep.
While the offense then sprints into offense. Number 3 here at the nail is going to get to the outlet spot. Number 5 here, he's your last line of defense. He's going to go back and protect that rim and then bump everybody out.
Okay.
Now, this was the first day, and I made the drill pretty hard on the first day. I was firing passes at the offense. If you want to simulate more of a game speed thing, you would lob the pass a little bit more to the offensive player.
Okay.
But essentially what you're doing is you're making these 2 forwards get behind the play almost like they crashed.
Yep.
And then everybody's got to fall in line from there. So I'll start the drill. So again, here we go.
So 5's going to go get his hand underneath the rim.
Yep. So now you can see we're outletting the ball to number 3 here.
Yeah.
All the offense is sprinting, and the 2 forwards just crashed. They had to get – so now you're simulating a 5-on-3 rush.
Yeah.
And what we have to do –
Who stops the ball?
no one here, and that's a problem.
Okay.
But essentially –
should have been the dude that's late to get to it?
yes.
Okay.
So what you have to do, and this is why we stopped the drill here, someone has to pick up the ball and keep it on a side. And let's rewind here and see if we can get a little bit better at it on the second attempt.
This guy.
So here, this is much better. So number 2 here busts his tail and picks up the ball while the Alamo man is getting back and trying to take away anyone who's pressuring the rim.
And you want number 2 to not let we talk to our guys offensively of crossing the street with the dribble or the pass.
Correct.
You don't want to let him cross the street.
Correct. So let's see how he does. Does a pretty good job of keeping the ball over here. Now, offense hits ahead like most of us would want our offense to do. The
And now
Alamo
the
man.
Alamo guy, because there's nobody in the hole, yeah, he can run out to get it.
And you can see here, number 14 is coming over to replace the Alamo man as our defensive forward is sprinting back to try and bump him out. So again, we're flooding the ball side here. We do a pretty good job. We take away the first pass shot. We take away the rim run. We do a pretty good job of flooding the ball side. I mean, ideally, I'd like this guy to be over slightly more towards the ball. But we do a pretty good job. And we just make them play in the half court. Now, if the offense is good here, they're going to throw the ball right into my center because, unfortunately, our defensive center has decided to sit right behind him. Yep.
That looked like Josh Loeffler playing defense.
I'll tell you what. It looked like me, except maybe even better because we've all seen me play, Dave. You know, no one here is asking you and I for tips on playing. It's only coaching.
So now I'm just stopping. I can see the angle. Then there's your elbow to half court.
Yeah, right here.
Those are your ball screen defense.
Correct.
Lines of demarcation.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, let's watch one more.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, I'll rewind a little bit here.
Well, let me back you up again. So, would you you'll change?
Yes.
Well, you change, but you'll change who's at that point spot because do you always have your point guard back, or you like you have crashed?
Yeah, point guards always get back. We've never had. I assume that you could possibly have like a Rajon Rondo type guy who maybe you said like maybe this guy should crash. but we always have our point guards back. But having said that,
but he may not be the Alamo guy always.
he's not always the Alamo guy.
You got 3 get-back guys, possibly.
Especially the way we play. Our point guard drives so much that he's very often not the Alamo man. So here you can see number 21 would be the Alamo man. He plays a lot at the 2.
Right.
You know, so we're going to switch. We'll put our 3-man there. We'll put our 4-man there because a lot of times for us, our 4-man is taking the top of the key 3. He might be the first guy back. You know, so we switch it up really. We never really put our 5-man there. That doesn't help us very much, but we do switch up who goes there.
When you have, this is a question. So if you have, so we do the same thing. We have guys who go and guys who get back.
Yeah.
Depending on our lineup, our 3-man is going to go to the offensive glass, or when we play smaller, then we're playing with 3 guards.
Yeah.
Then he may not be, because like my thing is you're going or you're getting back.
Yeah.
It's not dependent if you're the 3, now you're at the 2.
Same exact thing here. Same exact
So
thing.
if we have 3 guys that are ostensibly coming back, do you still have an Alamo guy and a guy who stops the ball, or do you go more like in a triangle?
We don't get too complex about. I mean, we still talk about the Alamo guy and the guy who sets the stops the ball, and then from there, you know, I think you can build the triangle from there.
Okay, all right.
And we have some other drills that, you know.
Let me see the other one that you did. I like this. So like this alone is worth the price of my donation to PC Central Kitchen. And I don't care if anyone else likes this or not. So this is good.
Well, I don't have the kernel drill per se, which is the one that starts in the triangle. I don't have film of that one.
What's the Spanish transition?
This is a drill I love. So the Alamo drill was introduced to me by my assistant who was new this year named Matt Colpoys.
Okay.
Who was coming from Penn State Barron with Dave Nyland.
Okay.
And Spanish transition, actually, a friend of ours, Kevin Quinlan, is the one who brought this to us.
All right. Well, it's good that Q did something positive.
He's the man. He's right down the road from you now.
Yes, he's the man.
Spanish transition is going to be, you start in a line here, alternating jerseys.
Yep.
And then it's going to start with backboard taps. And when the coach blows the whistle, you're exploding out into your transition. So we'll watch here.
Okay.
So you can see, you can get a general feel for this. And then we play out of it that way.
All right. What's kernel transition? Just talk us through it. You don't have to.
Kernel transition would be, it's probably easiest if you go up to your whiteboard and I can talk you through it.
All right.
So draw up a full court.
You can really see this from your camera?
Yeah. It's clear.
Good. My ability to diagram a court has not gotten any better, really.
Well, at least it hasn't gotten worse.
Well, bar was set pretty low on that one.
So draw up a full court there.
Yep.
Okay. Now at the lane line closest to you, put a coach.
I gotta get a better marker pen.
Okay. So
it's been 9 weeks since I've been diagramming stuff up here on this grease board. Okay.
So draw an offensive player at the elbow closest to you.
Right here?
Yeah. And a defensive player right behind him. No, closest to the baseline. Closer to the baseline. Like so we're going to end up, yeah, perfect. Now draw a coach closer to you between the two of them. And he's got the ball.
Like this?
Yeah. On the other side, put a guy in each corner. No, other side of the floor. Each corner.
Offense?
Yep. Yeah, offense. Draw a guy on the closest block to you.
Yeah.
No. On the other side of the floor, the closest block to you. Yep.
Offense?
Offense. And now the closest wing to you on the other side of the floor. There you go. Good. Now
Yep.
draw 3 defensive players. 1 at the nail, and then 2 at the blocks. And then
Yep.
draw a defensive player right at half court.
Got
So
it.
what we're going to do here, the coach is going to start with the ball right there.
Yep.
He's going to pass it to the offensive player
Who's going this way?
who's going that way. On that pass, as they blow the ball up the floor, the defensive player behind him is going to back tap the ball and try and steal it.
Okay.
He shouldn't be able to get it.
Yeah.
The defensive player at half court is now going to pick up the ball when it hits half court and get him going to one side. So he might be more at like the circle than half court. But as the ball is blown up the floor, that player at half court is now going to pick up the ball.
He picks him up.
Yeah. And what we're trying to do is get him going to that left hand, you know? And then from there, wherever the ball gets passed, we got to explode out of that triangle.
Yeah.
And that back tap, the back tap player becomes your 5th defender coming down the midline playing traffic cop.
He's playing opposite.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's essentially the drill. And then you can move the offensive players wherever you want. You can, you can move the defensive players however you want. But essentially, you're building that triangle and playing out of it with all the bumps while you talk about how to pick up the ball. And also, if you're a pressing team, it's a great way to play because you're working on back taps out of a trap.
Okay. You call it the Colonel drill.
I stole it from Izzy Metz at Wilkes, they're the Colonels.
There we go. Okay. That's good. What do they have? Okay. X, 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 O, X. All right. All right. Switching gears. We're way over our time that we thought, but it's all good. Let's talk about some of the stuff you've done. I think you said some 5-out transition secondary stuff.
Yeah, so offensively this year, we switched over to having our 5-man take the ball out of bounds.
Yep.
And we play out of essentially, it's very similar to what NBA teams do in transition. We're not that similar to an NBA team.
You guys share your screen again.
I will. I'm just getting it set up right now.
All right.
So we're not that similar to an NBA team in many ways, but we do have our 5-man take the ball out of bounds.
Well, okay.
And so here you can see we end up I'm gonna turn the sound off real quick here again. We end up in what we call home spacing or 1-2-2 spacing. We stole the term home from Dale Wellman.
Who stole it from Jeff Newbar, who stole it from John Beeline. Yes.
We're all stealing, right?
Yep.
So we end up with this spacing in transition a lot.
Was that on a miss?
No, we only do it after makes.
Okay.
And then this is just easy, basic action out of it. So as the ball sees the action on the far side of the floor, we can screen or cut the middleman.
Yeah.
Swing the ball, get a stop behind 3 right there. Different action out of it here. You can see the spacing. Corners are filled, 1-2-2. This time ball sees the action, we back cut it.
Step back, follow the ball screen.
Right in with a ball screen.
Okay.
Okay, now it's a little different action here. The one thing it did, what we had this year that we really wanted to move towards this, we had a 5-man who could shoot, but we also had 5 men who were good decision makers.
Yep.
We felt like it put our 5 men in position to threaten the defense earlier in the offense.
Yep.
We didn't feel like we got that much out of rim runs, to be honest with you. off of makes.
Right.
And what it did was it just opened up the floor for a point guard who became an All-American. So as you can see here, look at all the space we have here. So he can drive, kick. Now we're right back into home. Play out of the ball screen, reject, kick, 3. And here, we're off of a miss now, but the 5-man was behind the play, and we're kind of in it. A lot of open space to attack. We get a cut. Tons of space to drive.
Just a miss, Ken?
This is a miss. Now here, we're in a small ball lineup. And just lots of open room. It's also very adaptable if you want to play small. Now, let's say we're not playing out of home. We get into a lot of away screens out of this.
Okay.
So here we go, stagger away. One of the easiest things to do in a stagger away is it isolates the ball handler. A lot of action going away. It allows him to attack. If that's not there, we can reverse it, go stagger there. Pop back. Stagger away. Curl. Pop. 3. Stagger away. Curl. Curl. Pressure the defense. Now off that second curl, our big dives and starts sealing right away. So you can definitely get your post back in as well.
Yep.
And then off misses, we can still keep a lot of the same concepts, but we like to drag off misses.
Yep.
Here's a different version of it. This is like a double drag. And again, the one thing this does is it's the 5-out spacing is pretty flexible for different actions that you want to run as well. Here you can see we run this player from the ball side corner, and we bring over our 5 and our 4-man into a double drag. And then we'll drift screen the 4 out of the drag. And then if they play over the top, we can curl it. Single drag here with 3 on the fence opposite. Really allows us to get some open space to drive.
Single away.
Single away into a horns.
Like that.
Come off of the horns.
So the point guard, and then you can flare the point guard.
Yep. Flare.
Boom. Okay.
Same idea here. Set it.
So it's a 2 guard or whoever was in the horns.
Yep.
Right, I got you.
And again, it's a lot of action that opens up the rim here.
Run that one back.
Yeah, of course.
So run a little bit more. Point guard brings it, trails to 5, right?
Yep. Yeah. So we have, you can either send the 5 away or you can play through the trail, either way.
So now you get the point guard using the ball screen.
Yep.
Into horns. You get your 2 guard screen, flare the screener.
And then we, as you've probably seen us a little bit over the years, we play out of a lot of Princeton concepts. And now we've screened away for our point guard after playing through the trail. And a lot of times what we can do here is we can get into a basic point action.
Right.
But one thing we added this year was the ball screen step up out of point action.
Yep.
And we'll, a lot of times, because 32 was a really good shooter, we ghost it.
Yep. Run that one back again. Screen away. So instead of point guard trail to 5, reverse it. Instead of getting to horns like you did the ones before, you just get to a step up.
Correct.
Okay. Good stuff.
Go a pistol step up right here. Get the switch we want. Step up. And then you can play out of offense out of it as well. Dive the big in. And here now we get into a point action. So screen away for the 2-man.
It's good.
Point over the top. Pick and pop option. And again, if you don't have a 5-man that really you want to shoot, you can always dive him back down in.
Yep. Now you're playing.
Yep. Now we get to a drift. So it's pretty flexible. It allows for a lot of lineup flexibility, which I really like. And it just gets us into actions that attack the defense a little earlier than I thought what we were doing before. So it was a lot of fun to coach this way. And then what we did in certain situations, we'd go really small, play 5 guards. Sometimes we put our point guard as the Princeton center. And that really opened up driving lanes. Kind of almost turned into 5-out dribble drive a little bit. So it was a fun way to play this year, you know. And I really thought that it was very flexible. You could add different actions as you went through the year and little wrinkles that were kind of fun, you know.
That's awesome. All right. Well, Josh, this has been great. This has been longer than we'd anticipated. So your email address.
My email address is just my last name, Leffler, Loeffler, @jhu.edu.
So if somebody watches this and wants to get more, they can email you. Because for me, again, my goal, hey, I heard you did a couple good transition things. Wanted to pick your brain about downing defense. Wanted to see what you're doing in early offense in a 5-out setting. These are conversations you and I were going to have, you know, and I didn't maybe need to dive as deep in any one thing as somebody else might want to do.
Yeah.
But this has been great. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. This is awesome. Like every year, it's, you know, the one of the sadder things. I mean, not to be too sad, but like, you know, missing the Final Four stinks. You know, like it's always a really cool time to catch up. You know what I mean? Or like, it's just an annual thing where I enjoy getting to sit down with you for even an hour and shoot the breeze and talk about hoops. You know, so I'm glad we got a chance to do this. This was very cool.
This was great. Again, everyone will you can access this on George Mason Basketball YouTube page, on I'm donating to DC Central Kitchen. Josh is going to donate to a relief agency in his area. Encourage you to do the same. Everyone stay safe, and hopefully there'll be basketball and in-person contact very, very soon.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. And Dave, I got to tell you, like, you've probably been the most consistent person in terms of like actively contributing to relief efforts on things like this that I've seen, and it's really impressive. I don't actually pay you very many compliments often, so
Well, we wouldn't want that.
we wouldn't want that, but it is really impressive, and you should know that. It's something that I really appreciate.
Well, thanks for coming on, and everyone stay safe.